and welcome to Not Just Books, the library's monthly show about what's happening at your Williamson County Public Library and your community. I'm Dolores Greenwald, and I'm the director of the library. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us. And we have with us some very special guests. We have Carolyn and Marcia Fraser talking about our special collections exhibit for African American History Month called Lest We Forget. Very, very special collection of funeral programs, and some prominent Williamson County African Americans are mentioned in it. Also, we have with us Liz Arrambide, and she's a children's librarian at the main library. She's going to be talking to us about two very, very special programs she has started for children who have sensory issues. So if you're a parent, please stay tuned and join us, and I will be right back. Hello and welcome back. I'm so honored today to have two very special guests, Carolyn and Marcia Fraser. They're going to be talking to us about a wonderful exhibit in our Special Collections Department honoring Black History Month. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
And Carolyn, how did you get started in this?
Well, we got started months ago. I think it was back in the spring when it was mentioned that suggested that we use the funeral programs, since we already had a pretty good collection, and do something with the funeral programs. So we found some good pictures that would coordinate with the funeral programs. But it took several months to get all of this done.
Well, thank you. Did you keep up with all your volunteer hours that you put in on this?
Yeah, I can say yes, we have kept up, and she is a star volunteer.
Oh, she is. I would see her over in your department, Marcia, just working away. Thank you so much on behalf of the library for what you did with this collection.
Well, I think this is a very educational experience. I look forward to coming.
Well, and Carolyn, we have so much fun doing it. Marcia, let's get a little bit of background about the exhibit. Is this the 20th year we've done this?
Let's see, this is the 22nd.
22nd.
Year, yes, 2018. And it's just a thrill for me to be a part of this. I've gotten to know Thelma very well over the last few years, and if it weren't for Thelma and her passion for African American history in Williamson County and her ability to collect all of the information, the photographs, the genealogy information, the funeral programs, which Carolyn scanned, by the way. Carolyn digitized 1,300 funeral programs, and they're in books like this. But it's a thrill to be a part of this, and it is very difficult to pull out a select few pictures each year.
Well, let's talk about that for just a minute. But before that, Thelma, when we say Thelma, we're talking about Thelma Battle.
Yes, that is
we
correct.
have several of her collections that we have at the library. This one focuses on funeral brochures, but we've had several different themes. We've had sports. One theme we did recently, it was either maybe year before, was the Great Migration, how that was affected African Americans in Williamson County. And that was special to me because the Great Migration is a very important part of African American history, but not a lot of people knows about it. So I think that's what makes this annual monthly exhibit so important for us to do at the library and for people in Williamson County to know about it. So, Marcia, you want to talk about the book a little bit?
I would love to show you this book and maybe a couple of things in it. We have 5 of these notebooks and about 1,300 programs plus in overall. And we're hoping to enlarge that collection. I'd like to show you a couple of programs in here. One is the oldest program we have, and it's more of an announcement probably than a program. This is 1899, and this was the program for Patrick Henry Southall, who died at age 40 years, 3 months, and 18 days.
See, I didn't know we had them that went back that far.
There's another one, 1901, but the bulk of what we have would be from the late 50s on to present day. Here's one of my favorites, and Ms. Mittie Hughes Scruggs, or was it Hughes? Gentry. Mittie Gentry Scruggs, sorry. I love the rustic hand drawing on this. She died in 1957, and I love what funeral programs tell us.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I never knew Mittie Scruggs. I never knew any of these folks in here, but I learned something about her on the opposite side. I learned that she was married to Mr. Forrest Scruggs, and it says here, to this man she was more than a wife, she was the lifeblood of his existence.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And it also says that her fruitful life in this community of Franklin stands out like the stars on a clear night.
And you have a list of pallbearers too.
Yes.
And that always helps, because then that tells you who their friends were, who maybe
exactly.
some of the relatives were.
Well, the funeral programs give us information we just don't get anywhere else. And I know Carolyn can tell you more about this, but the information they all contain an obituary. And that is just gold to future generations when they're searching for their family members. There are other things that are unique to African American funeral programs.
Yes, that's right. And you mentioned that it's a goal for genealogists. In some funeral programs, I've seen at least 4 generations of people listed just right there in the funeral
that's
program.
so helpful.
It is. And not only that, they will give you the birth and death date. Of course, that's part of the obituary. But a lot of times the funeral program would say a home going. And for African Americans, that's special because years back, the home going meant that the person deceased was going back to the homeland of Africa. But in recent years, it means that it's just crossing over to go to heaven. Right.
See, I did not know that.
Yes,
That's
well,
wonderful.
I didn't either.
The burial date is on there, the place of burial, of course, the undertaker, the flower girls, and this is similar to pallbearers. These would have been the friends or relatives of the deceased, and the
interesting.
flower girl was responsible for retrieving the wreath after the ceremony. And if the cemetery was close by, they would carry the flowers to the grave. If the cemetery was a distance, they would just put the flowers in the hearse. The name of the person officiating the funeral would be on the funeral program.
I could see that would be important.
Yes,
too.
sometimes a favorite song that the deceased liked would be sung at the services. A lot of times, nurses, this is at the funeral. I would say ushers would be present to kind of aid people who got emotionally overwhelmed. They would be there. So there are a lot of things. The sunset and sunrise, that's kind of unique to African American funeral
I saw a lot
programs.
of that
Right.
when I walked around and looked
It's on the
at
front
yes.
of each funeral program.
Right.
Yes.
Sunset.
Sunrise and sunset.
Yes.
Right.
Beginning and end.
And some wonderful poetry.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's
it,
in
too.
most of the programs. There's some poetry. Right.
Well, how is a theme decided? You know, I was mentioning earlier that we have different themes
Right.
every year. So, Marcia,
Well-
tell us a little bit about how the themes are decided.
Well, I have to give full credit to Jason Gavin for this theme because he had been special collections librarian until last March. So he was already thinking in terms of what are we doing next year. And after I took his position and he moved on into administration, he came to me and said, you know, I just think it would be great to pair up the funeral programs and bring them out, let people see the funeral programs and see what we have here. And perhaps it would help you to publicize and enlarge the collection we have because they are truly gold. It was a fun project to do. It did take longer, matching up people with or families. Some we exhibited in family groups. So it took a little bit longer, but it's just full of information, and the exhibit itself is getting a lot of attention. The folks who are coming to see it really seem to be enjoying it and finding the material very meaningful.
Now, some of the special people that we have shown in the exhibit is someone most people in Williamson County knows, and that's Tommy Murdoch. So, and I noticed that you brought some of that to show, and let's the viewers see that this smile never changed from Tommy Murdoch. And I just found out before we started working on this taping that you are related.
I am related to Tommy. His mother and my mother were sisters. Minerva Bright and Minerva Owen Bright and Jane Okress Owen Murdoch were sisters. My mother was the older.
You also have in the special collections area a video documentary that is running. Tell us a little bit about that, Marcia.
We do, Dolores. That was another fun project that I participated in during the summer. And I did that with my son, who is a filmmaker. What it turned out to be is more of an oral history interview. But on the film, we have Thelma, Rick Warwick, and Mary Pierce. And they are there to talk about Thelma's work. Thelma's talking about her work, and she's remembering the old times in Franklin. She talks about how she came to be involved with African American history and the J. Paul Getty scholarship that she received to go to a huge conference in Boston that really got her going on this. And so it's very informative video, and we've got it playing in the Special Collections Department during February, during this exhibit, and hopefully you'll be able to see it on WCTV as well.
The exhibit runs through February.
That's right.
So the hours that the library is open, so anyone that wants to come by can see it. Now, the notebooks, one which you brought, that is available for people to see all the time as part of our special collections.
Yes, they are.
And so you can come and take a look at that and all of the other treasures that Thelma has been working on all these years.
And Dolores, if I may, I'd like to add that all of this is digitized. We have, here's our poster girl, Orme Hughes Benier, and we have all the pictures digitized. They have all been assigned a number. All of the funeral programs are digitized, and what that means is we can print these out for you. If someone comes in, we can find them easily and print them out. We have a master index. We've got all of the captions in Thelma Battle's original catalog books. So you get the full package.
That's wonderful. So plan some time. Don't just dart in and out. Put a date on your calendar. come in and look through this collection and exhibit because it's wonderful. And not only Carolyn and Marcia, thank you for being here today, but thank you for all the hard work done on this collection.
Thank
You're
you,
very
Dolores,
welcome.
and thank you for
so
your
much.
help and support.
Thank you so much, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Liz Arrambide. She is one of our children's librarians at the main library in Franklin. Liz has a passion for doing programs for children, and we have started 2 new ones thanks to Liz, and it's Rock and Rhythm. Yes, we're going to make a little bit of noise in a minute, and then one with American Sign Language. Liz, thank you so much for being here today.
It's wonderful to be here. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming here, and thank you for these 2 very special new programs we have. So first, since you brought us some things to play with, what is the Rock and Rhythms program? Tell us about it.
Well, the Rocking Rhythms program came out of the need of developing sensory story times for children who have sensory processing issues or are in the autism spectrum. And as we began working on this, we began to realize that most of the sensory story times in the whole United States is making sure that children who have special needs have ways to accommodate their wiggles, their meltdowns, and like weighted blankets or spinners or some kind of fidget. And then last summer, before we got it launched, one of our fathers, Dave Spack, who is a drummer and works at the Kennedy Center for Vanderbilt, took us in a new direction. And he showed us that you can do the same thing and meet everybody's needs, but people learn things rather than just being accommodated. And so he taught us that we could incorporate into every part of our story time rhythms in movement, rhythms with drums, rhythms with percussion instruments, and it has been a wonderful experience.
Well, Liz, show us a little bit about how it works.
Okay, believe it or not, these are wonderful drums, and they have different pitches. So I'll give you a small one. We have lots of small kids, sometimes brothers and sisters.
Oh, goody, I get to play.
And then we'll do some of the larger ones.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you say your name?
Dolores.
Right, and I'll do the Arrambide. Arrambide. And so that is how those 2 sound. Now we'll get to the big ones, because they have...
So each size sounds different,
Right.
okay? Okay. Thank you for being here.
Arrambide.
Greenwald.
There you go.
All right.
And I'll do a little rhythm that, why don't you keep the drum?
Oh,
And we'll
okay.
do one that we do a lot.
Okay.
It's called hip, 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 a hip, a hip, a hippopotamus. Got on a city bus, and all the people said, "You're squishing us." Okay, a hip, a hippopotamus. Got on the city bus, and all the people said, "You're squishing us." Not fun?
Very good.
And
So that's very interesting how the rhythm and the sounds incorporated into the program. I love that.
a lot of the parents, when they have to sign up, and they tell us if the children have any kind of special needs. And it's been helpful because we found out that we had only Spanish speakers, and I speak Spanish fluently, so if need be, I can incorporate a few words of Spanish so they feel comfortable. We found out about little brothers and sisters, and so we figured out how to make sure that the 1- and 2-year-olds are comfortable, and usually they love these instruments. And so They don't wander around. They're every time we do anything, whether it's a story or song, we're doing the instruments. Let me show you this one, because this has a wholly different sound. But one of the things we're learning is that children who are doing very well with these are what's called sensory seeking. They want to make a lot of noise and they want to hear a lot of noise. And so having different instruments helps them not to be bored. So we keep changing instruments. So I'm toast in the toaster and I'm getting very hot. Tick tock, up I pop.
I love that.
And we also have shakers, and those work very well for kids who are sensitive to sound. So if I know that we have children who sound's going to be a problem, then I have those options available.
Yeah, this is much, much more than just your traditional story time working music and sound into it. It was very much a learning process for you.
Oh, absolutely. And I do the story times for preschool on Wednesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 10:30 every week. And so I began experimenting with them because I had seen with Dave that the problems normally creep into a story time were vanished with the drums. So we've been trying them, and it's been working very well, and the kids have really enjoyed it. We have a lot of English as a second language kids in those. We have Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Spanish, and the drums are an equalizer because they feel comfortable. They can be successful even if they don't understand the language.
Well, this is quite a wonderful project that you've been working on. You were briefly telling me a story about and these programs are on Saturdays, about you were not able to distinguish between children with sensory problems than the ones that didn't. Tell me a little bit about that.
On Saturday, we had a program for Rocking Rhythms, and we had 4 young men who had sensory processing issues, and they were all sitting around a drum, and you couldn't tell. They were having fun with the drum. It fed their need for sensory stimulation, and so they were very successful, and they had a blast. And one of the things that was very special is that afterwards, I only knew one of these 11 children, and they were all hugging my legs. And it was like, wow. And I think it's partly, I'm glad they like me and I like them, and I was glad that they were there. But I think it was really that they were successful, and that some problems they have in other places weren't there.
They were comfortable.
Right, that
Yeah.
their needs were taken care of, but in a way that, one, didn't mark them out as needing something special, and 2, is helping them get new skills. And a lot of the parents say, we want them to love music, and so that's there.
And if people want to know why individuals get into the library program, that's a beautiful example. And let's talk briefly about the other program, using American Sign Language.
This also was one of the miracles that have happened on this process, this journey of finding out what we can do. I knew we were reaching the kids that seek sensory stimulation, but not all kids like a lot of noise. And so
There's different types of sensory issues, and that was one thing working with you and you telling me about this process that I didn't know that.
And it's big. And so how can we accommodate kids that don't find drums just the most wonderful thing? The shakers work very well, but also another volunteer came in and said, I'm a native speaker of sign language, which isn't always that usual, and I'd like to volunteer and help with story times. and teach sign language. So we're both pretty busy, so she's teaching me the kinds of things I don't know and showing me some resources. So last week, for both of them, we did Old MacDonald, using the drums for one, and then for the other, we signed the animals.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
And one of the problems that I'm still working with is that the shakers work pretty well, but hard to sign and do rhythm at the same time. And since ahead of time people register, our next one is going to be Saturday, March 17th. The Rocking Rhythms at 10 and 11:15 is the one with American Sign Language.
And they're offered once a month. So log on to our website at wcpltn.org and find out when they are. Also, you can get on our email list. People like to do that because our calendar comes right to your email, and you can sign up by going to ref@williamson-tn.org. And the children's department just amazes me. I mean, you guys are doing such wonderful things, and it will tell you all about the regular story times as well as Liz's special ones. But I can't stop without mentioning we had some new big award announcements yesterday. We had the Newberry and Caldecott announcements. Wolf in the Snow for Caldecott and Hello Universe for the Newberry.
Wow.
And that's popular because a lot of parents like to find out about these award-winning books, and those are the really two biggies in the children's field. So,
and we have a special collection for that. We have all the Newberries together. We have all the Caldecotts together.
So visit our website, wcpltn.org, and come by and see the wonderful staff in the children's department. And thank you so much for coming today. And also thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you, and thank you for your support. This initiative started with Dolores.
Thank you so much again, and we'll be right back.
Passion in the Garden by Susie Margaret Ross. My window flung open, my gardenias beckon, lurid with fragrance, sensuous in white, voluptuous in full bloom, like brides at the altar.
Thank you for joining us today. And also, I would like to say thank you to our very special guests, Carolyn Worthy and Marcia Fraser, who talked about our special collection exhibit, worked very hard to put it together. And also to Liz Arrambide, who also has worked very hard putting two very special children's programs together. These are wonderful folks who reside in this county, and we're just thankful very much that they were part of our day today. If you want to know what's going on at the library, sign up for our weekly newsletter at ref@williamson-tn.org. Also, you can visit our website at wcpltn.org, and don't forget to follow us on social media, facebook.com/WCPLTN, and on twitter.com/WCPLTN. And until next time, explore your world and read.